Hey, friends, it is me again. So, you saw me earlier today, and I'm back, but I've brought along my good friend Ellen. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
So, I'm going to pretend like nobody knows who Ellen is. And because I think sometimes I just assume that people live in my world and know all the people that I know. And so I'm going to introduce Ellen, and we're going to have a great chat about her business today. We're going to talk about the business part of it a little bit because I think not everybody understands exactly what she does. So Ellen Frost is located in Baltimore, Maryland, and she is the owner of Local Color Flowers, which is a design studio. And if you haven't been with me before, you've not heard me say, I truly believe that Ellen's business model is the one she's built and created is exactly what most people that think they want a flower shop or be a florist dreams of. But then the reality comes when they, go to a brick and mortar and it's just a very different scene. Ellen, that's why I'm going to get her to tell us all about her business today, friends, because it's a very different model based on locally grown flowers. So as I mentioned, she's in Maryland. They have cold winters and her business runs year round.
Yeah.
And Ellen is blazing a trail. And the problem with blazing a trail of something new, and in fact, this really isn't new, she's rekindling the old model over several decades ago that kind of just vanished when global came on the scene.
That's right.
And, so Ellen, tell us from the get go for people that just aren't familiar with you and what you are doing.
Sure. Well, I'm Ellen Frost. I'm the owner of Local Color Flowers. We are a design studio here in Baltimore, Maryland. We started 15 years ago. And at that time, when I started the business, the idea was to provide locally sourced flowers for people getting married because there seemed to be a hole in the marketplace. There were farmers that were farming flowers, but they didn't really have any connection to people getting married. And there were people getting married who wanted locally sourced or more sustainable flowers, but there was no real way to connect with the growers unless you went to a farmer's market on a Saturday morning, which is a very bad idea for getting your wedding flowers, believe me. And
For
so
real.
seriously, so we thought we could be sort of the bridge between the local farmers growing flowers and local couples getting married that wanted locally sourced flowers. And we started just with weddings. We did weddings, probably just weddings for maybe the first 3 or 4 years. And then we started to expand out from there, doing more of the things that you would think that a sort of normal florist does, but with locally sourced flowers. So we started doing single order deliveries, for a birthday, anniversary, things like that. We started offering design classes in our shop. We started doing a little bit of retail, subscriptions. So we really expanded out from the beginning of just flowers for weddings. Weddings continue to be a big source of our income, but we definitely diversified after those first few years.
And so, all right. So at that point in time, was that did you still have a full-time job and
Yes.
you were doing it as like a side hustle? So
Yeah.
kind of take us through that next step that you went to, because I think people need to understand.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when businesses start, my flower farming gig was my side hustle after my daytime job for 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
Until I felt it's not that I was finally making enough money to replace the income I was making as a business manager of an animal hospital.
Yeah.
But I felt like, all right, I'm getting customers. I need more time to build my business to go to
Yeah.
the next level. Right. So take us to the next step that happened for you.
Yeah. So I did have a full-time job. I started the business actually with two friends who, after the first year, left the business. One got pregnant with twins, and one moved to the Eastern Shore of Maryland. So after that, it was just me. I still had a full-time job. And I just did this on the weekends. So I did, maybe one wedding a month, 2 weddings a month at the most, only during field season. And after maybe 2 or 3 years, I thought, well, I really like this and I'd like to do more of it. So I started whittling back my full-time job. So I went to 4 days a week, eventually 3 days a week, and then finally left that job. But in the meantime, what I was doing was really, right, sort of proof of concept, right? I was making sure that the business model that I had worked. And when sourcing local, this was really something that nobody in our region was doing at that time. So there was no proven record that this could work. And so after a couple of years, what we figured out is, yes, it can work during field season. So, May through October, but you can't quit your full-time job and have a job that only pays you 6 months of the year, or I couldn't anyways.
Right.
And so what I did is I spent another year or two, maybe a year, working to develop winter grower relationships so that we could have locally sourced flowers year round. And once we sort of had those in place, then I was ready to quit my job. So it was probably 4 years before I finally quit. At that same time, we were in the process of buying a building. So we were really, going all in. And then
no turning back now. No turning back.
No looking back. And so after that, for 1 year, what we did, and this was sort of our last sort of let's be careful kind of move. For the last year, Eric kept his job. That's my husband. He kept his job, and we lived on his salary for 1 year, and we put all of the other money back into the business. And we thought, okay, if this can work, then at the end of the year, Eric can quit his job, he can join the business, and we'll be all in. And that's what we did. So about 5 years in, Eric and I were both full on in the business, full time.
So Sally has asked, how long has Ellen been in business?
We started in 2008. And like I said, in the beginning, it was really, on the side. I had a full-time job. And I think the first year, I think we did maybe 5 weddings of people we didn't know. And, before that, we were doing friends' weddings. So we had been working for a few years before that, but not more just as like a group of friends who did this for fun. So in 2008, we incorporated, we became an official business, and kept going from there.
All right. So you and Eric both at this point. So we said 2008.
Yep.
So when did you decide that you were going to take on employees? When did that next step happen?
So that was before Eric came on full time. So he had been helping. We were about 3 years into the business. I had been doing it alone for about 2 years. Eric was helping, but he was still doing his full-time job. And it was really maybe in that year 3, year 4 that we took on our first employee. And what that did for us, which, looking back, you always, people always say, like, what would you do different? The only things I think I would do different always are like, I maybe would have done things sooner. I think I waited. I was very risk averse getting started, and I was afraid to hire somebody and sort of be on the hook for that employee's salary early on.
Yeah.
But I knew it was getting to the point where we could not grow the business with just me working. We really needed somebody to help. And we hired our first employee, Carling. She had been a trained designer. So that was great because she brought to the table a bunch of stuff that I didn't know. Carling's the person who taught me how to make wreaths. I had never made a wreath before. She's really the person who helped us expand our weddings because she could do consultations. She could do design. So after that, we, were pretty steady on having a team since then. We've always had employees since then. The team has grown and shrunk and grown and shrunk. But yeah, we've always had employees since about year 4.
All right. And so fast forward to what it is today.
Yeah. What it is today. Well, we source all of our flowers locally still. We have been committed to that since day one. And so, part of what we do is continually grow and develop and nurture relationships with farmers. We have sort of a group of about 40 growers that we buy from, and not every week, but that's sort of the big picture. And we source, maybe like this week, we sourced from maybe a dozen growers. And so, that's a big chunk of our work, is sort of keeping those relationships, making orders, the logistics of those orders. And then with those local flowers, we're still doing weddings. We still do subscriptions. We have about 100 subscribers that we deliver flowers to every week. We do some retail. We do design classes. And we have a small team now. Right now, we only have about 3 employees besides Eric and I. After COVID, our team shrunk a little bit, and we've been able to sort of do what we need to do with a smaller team. So yeah, that's where we are right now.
And you also have a book club. I'm just trying to show people that, and you have Arranging Wars. That's, a super fun thing. Oh my gosh.
We do have a book club. Actually, this is the end of the 9th year of the book club. Our book club is like, it's one of my favorite things. It really began as a way to sort of bring people into a community that had flowers at sort of the core of that community, but a way for people who didn't want to spend money on flowers. Maybe they just wanted to come and be in community with people. And so the book club really was started that way. And actually, I should mention, we started a new blog over the summer, the Vicarious Florist blog. And I just did a great post about our book club, because it is really a very interesting, special thing. We read about flowers and nature and environmentalism and all kinds of other fun things. And we're looking forward to our 10-year anniversary. And yeah, we have a flower club. We have lots of clubs. I don't know why we're like obsessed with clubs. We have Flower Club, which is basically people who were coming to classes all the time, like every class we offered. These were really like our super fans. If we offered 10 classes a year, they took 10 classes a year. So they were really people who didn't need classes anymore. They just wanted, again, to be in community with other people who liked local flowers and liked designing with local flowers. And so what we did was, actually, this was one of the Flower Club members' suggestions. They said, why don't you offer other events that aren't so much class-based, but that are more like flower event-based? And that was where Bloom Battle came from. Bloom Battle is an amateur floral design competition we have every year. And these people all come and compete. It's really fun. We've done a trivia night, a flower trivia night. We had over 100 people in our shop doing trivia, all flower related trivia. We've done a chopped style. If you've ever watched the TV show Chopped, we have done like that, like a surprise challenge. Again, just like other ways to involve our community with using local flowers in unique and creative ways. So yes, we're still doing our regular everyday, make designs, deliver designs, make weddings, deliver weddings, but we're also finding ways to keep our community involved with local flowers.
Because the reality of that is, when they need flowers, or even if they maybe 2 years ago, before they knew Ellen, they wouldn't even have considered flowers for a certain situation. Now it's the first thing on their speed dial to let's give them local flowers. So
yes, it's great.
The community part of this, and I think that's the part that is really hard. I know that my conventional florist that I have sold to for many years,
Yeah.
it's a very different environment. I mean, they have some core great customers,
Mhm.
but it's a very small pool, unlike what you have created. And
Yeah.
the other thing that as a commercial cut flower grower for 2.5 decades, I have met so many people that want to be a part of the local flower scene, but they don't necessarily want to be a flower farmer,
Sure.
or nor can they because they don't have the space, or they're maybe they feel like they've aged out of starting something new that's so
Absolutely.
physical. That
And
this
that's
is
really
another.
how I started. I farmed here in Baltimore City at a vegetable farm that did flowers in addition to vegetables. We did mostly vegetables. We had a flower nursery. And when I got started, I thought, well, I farming seems to be what I'm into. I like being outside. I'm into flowers. I think this could be a great, and really, and Jenny knows this story. I had just started reading Jenny's blog. So I didn't know Jenny then, Jenny from Love and Fresh Flowers, but she had a blog that I was reading, and I thought, okay, farming and flower design, that seems like a great fit. And so I went out, I worked on this farm for a couple of years to try it out. And while I loved the farmers, I loved the customers, I loved the flowers, there was nothing about farming that I liked. I didn't like being hot, cold, wet, dirty, sweaty. I didn't like any of it. I did
The
not.
mosquitoes, I'm sure.
Yes, I just did not. But I loved the feel of the community that came
Right.
together around flowers. And so I knew after that I wanted to do something with flowers. I just knew that farming was not it. So floral design seemed like a good fit. And for us, we're reaching out to those other people. That's actually why we call the blog Vicarious Florist. It's for people who think, I want to know what it's like to be a florist. I want to be part of this scene. I want to be part of this community. I'm not going to do it. I have my job and my life and whatever, but I want to be a part of what you're doing.
So I want Ellen to tell us about her class in just a minute, but Sally has said Ellen might need to do a class on events. Well, that is part of Ellen's course.
Yes, absolutely.
So Ellen has a school course that the Gardener's Workshop produces and hosts for her. And so Ellen, tell us about your course, which is about building this amazing business model that you can do. I mean, if you're a conventional florist, I think we should say this out of the gate. We're not suggesting that you give up flowers coming from importers. We're saying that here's another niche, another marketing opportunity, a whole nother group of people you can bring into your business. Take it away.
Yeah. So the course is really sort of everything we've learned in the last 15 years condensed into a 6-week course. And it really starts to look at all of the things to help anyone in the floral industry, whether you're a flower farmer, farmer florist, floral designer, to help you become an expert in your field, to build great relationships with flower farmers and with your community, and to market local flowers so that your business can be successful selling local flowers. So we look right at the beginning, we look at sort of what's going on in the world of flowers. What is the history of local flowers? What's happening globally? Then we're going to talk about why local. Why would you choose, especially if you're a conventional florist who sources from the wholesaler from overseas, why would I decide to do something locally? And what does local even mean? To me, Ellen Frost, local means within 100 miles of Baltimore. For the USDA, it means 250 miles. In some places, it means a state that's next to your state. So, how do you decide for your customers what local means? And what's your real motivation? Are you trying to give your customers something different? Are you trying to set yourself apart? We're going to talk about all those things and really work through for you so that you can develop a business model that works based on these things. Then we're going to talk about all the logistics of buying local. So how do you find farmers? How do you work with farmers? How do you get flowers from farmers, because that can be a challenge. Then we're going to talk all about marketing, selling, and differentiating yourself, because really that's what Local Flowers lets you do. It lets you stand out in a crowded marketplace. Because frankly, if you look at Instagram, at floral design Instagram, a lot of it looks the same.
Yep.
A lot of it looks like peonies and roses and baby's breath, and it looks the same. And so, how do you stand out in a crowd? Local flowers are one way to do that. And then we're going to talk about community building, all of the things that make our business special. I'm going to talk to you about how you can too do that in your own communities.
So, I mean, everything you talk about, for me I was a business person first, and then I became a flower farmer. And I mean, I am just such a big believer that you just don't know what you don't know. I mean, I am constantly moving forward. I mean, it's like, all right, I'm a flower farmer, but I need to know a lot about business.
Yes.
I need to know a lot about marketing. I need to know a lot about social media. I need to know a lot about this, a lot about that, which means I am constantly learning. Do you know how impressed my commercial customers are with my depth of knowledge when I talk about flowers? I mean, I loved it when Deborah Prenzine started Slow Flowers with her first book that was about that, and it took about 5 years, I think, for that to kind of become a thing, right? As that began to happen, and there were all this information, which is you go deep on the history.
Oh, yeah.
Where flowers came from and what they're doing today. I mean, my florists were like, really? You are kidding me. I mean,
and really every florist should know this, but as a florist who started without any formal training, there was no place that anybody told you this stuff. Nobody taught you this. There was no place to learn it until I sort of put this stuff together for myself. And now to be able to say to customers, oh, let me tell you about what it was like before 1969 when, people started growing in South America. Let me tell you, what it was like when in colonial times people were buying locally and selling locally. There's just such rich history there that we just have not really been taught.
Right. And well, they don't teach that in the history books. No, they really, really don't. So Ellen, I really want to first off say to everybody, so Ellen's course is called Growing Your Business with Local Flower Sourcing. And it's a 6-week class. What that means, for 6 weeks, each week you get a bunch of new videos in your online library on that week's subject that you have lifetime unlimited access to. Then at the end of that week, you have a live Q&A with Ellen. So if there's any question that's not answered, Ellen's going to answer it for you. We hold nothing back. People assume that, right, you don't share, or that all of us as instructors don't share our most inner secrets. And that's just not really true. I mean, as the one thing we all have in common is we have servant teacher hearts and mentorships. And what a mentor's goal in my book is for your students to exceed you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? To go past. And so you want to give them all the goods and then push them out the door and say, fly, baby, fly, right?
Yep, exactly.
But we don't quite leave you on your own, because we do have an optional Facebook group that you have connection with. I mean, Ellen, 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, there will still be people in that alumni group that you can go in and ask, and Ellen is in and out of that group. So you can purchase the course at thegardenersworkshop.com. It's right there on the homepage. It's only available to enroll for 5 days. Today is the first day. It's $495, and we offer a payment plan if that works better for you. And we just invite you to come. We also offer a money-back guarantee, and what that means, and that is from when the class goes live in January. So enrollment happens this next 5 days. Then school does not start until the 1st of January, and it finishes it up right before Valentine's Day. So it's the perfect timing for those people that are involved in the design world. And so The course goes live in the 1st of January. You get the whole first weeks, all the sessions. And if you get it and say, you know what, this is not for me, no questions asked, you can get a refund. But I'm telling you, friends, you're not going to be sorry. And if you're a flower farmer, I 100% am saying to you, every flower farmer can benefit from this course, because this course trains people to buy flowers from local farmers. You need to know both sides of the story. So Ellen, tell us in 5 minutes or less, what's a week like with Ellen Frost in the business?
So let's see, what do we do? Well, Monday, Tuesday, because most people's weeks start on Monday. Monday, Tuesday, we spend a lot of time making orders with the growers. So that's when the availability lists come to us. That's when we're sort of assessing the week's, needs and placing our orders. And that's placing orders Monday, Tuesday for delivery the following week. So the following Tuesday or Wednesday. Then on Wednesday, we go into the shop. Our staff is there. We have our first day of deliveries for the week. So we are making, anywhere between 30, 40, 50 arrangements. So some of them are DIY buckets, some of them are vase arrangements, and those go out for delivery. Then Wednesday night from 3 to 7, we have flower happy hour, which is sort of an open studio time for people to come and just make arrangements themselves. They don't have to reserve a spot. They can bring a bottle of wine, some friends, and they just pay for whatever they make. So we have flowers out by the stem. Our designers are there to talk to them about the flowers, tell them where they're from, help them with their designs. Then Thursday, we usually start getting ready for weekend weddings. We also do our regular Thursday deliveries. Same with Friday, wedding design, regular deliveries. Saturday is usually a big wedding day, but our shop is open from 8 to noon. So on Saturdays, first we have the shop open 8 to noon, and that's just for regular retail sales. And then likely we're going off to a wedding Saturday afternoon. Sunday, we're usually back in the shop, cleaning up, preparing all of our stuff for the following week, doing all of the things that are the behind the scenes things that nobody thinks about. We're taking the compost out. We're, washing and prepping all the vases. We're, doing all of those things that are going to prepare our team for the next week. And so, and that's like a normal week. Sometimes we are like in the winter, usually Monday and Tuesday, we're driving to farms to get the flowers. In the winter, we do a lot more picking up. During the season, we get a lot more deliveries. So that time, that sort of Monday, Tuesday is always farmer time, whether that is making orders and receiving flowers from the farmers or going out to the farms to pick up flowers and bring them back.
So I just want to, we have to hop off here because we're going over to Instagram, friends, at 4:30. If you want to hear more, we'll be continuing this conversation. But I just want to say again that Ellen is a big believer, as I am, that every person in business needs to be an expert.
Yes.
And to be an expert, you have to continually build your depth of knowledge. And so one of the reasons I really got Ellen and approached her about producing a course was I did feel it was so paramount for flower farmers, but also more people that want to be involved in the flower scene that don't necessarily want to be flower farmers. This is like a perfect solution. And I know from your past students that we've interviewed and talked to, there are so many. There are some brick and mortar shops that are popped up. There's people that do like you that have very limited open hours, but you're doing other things all the time. So there's just lots of opportunities. So I just encourage everybody, to follow us over to Instagram, or secondly, visit thegardenersworkshop.com and check out Ellen's course. It's a drop in the bucket and it's a business expense. That's the other thing people need to understand. So, all right, friends, we are going to sign off here. And Ellen, I will see you in just a few minutes right over on Instagram to continue this conversation.
See you then.
Ciao, everybody.